Red lorry, yellow lorry.
That looks great. That's a great pattern.
Yeah, thanks, darling. The way we conceive of the mind is that the mind is somehow encased inside the skull. It's brain bound in some way. And you can see this in all sorts of self-improvement books. It's always like how to train your brain. Partly when we envisage the mind, we think about conscious experience, the phenomenological experience of seeing a cat and having that first-person experience, which is very much a privileged first-person perspective to aspects of mind. Analytic philosophers call this qualia. But we also know that the mind is not restricted to those conscious experiences. So if I say to you, your best friend in primary school, you may have not been thinking of him or her, but suddenly you can bring them to mind. So there's that unconscious element. And what Clark and Chalmers said is there are a whole series of functions of what we call mind that if they took place inside the head, we'd think of those as fully part of mind. If they take place outside the head, interaction with it, then we don't. And they said that's arbitrary. So their idea seems to be based around notions of prosthesis. And Chalmers' favourite one is the phone. Well, once upon a time I had to remember numbers, now my phone remembers my numbers, and this is now part of my extended mind. And I think that's fine to a degree, but it takes prosthesis as its kind of image, and I think there are much broader ways to think of the mind. If you think about what a language is a form of extended mind. This idea that language in many ways constitutes our thinking. We don't just use language to encode preformed thoughts. Language is the basis of our thinking. I'll give you an example. So when Lera Boroditsky, who at the time was at Stanford University, went to Cape York, she was asking for directions to go somewhere, and someone said, "Oh, it's north from here." And she's like, "North? Where's north?" And she found that all the Indigenous kids in her class, little kids, all pointed north. And she's like, "Oh, how do they all know where north is?" Well, what Boroditsky found out was Thayor, which is a Paman language, which is very common to the Cape languages, it prioritizes universal compass directions in its language. We prioritize relative compass directions, right? So left and right. Now, that's really good for setting a table or driving on the road. Imagine setting a table if you only had universal compass directions, right? If the fork is due east from your, but if you have universal compass directions, orienting yourself is going to be particularly easy. Now, we do have universal compass directions, but unless you're a sailor or something like that, you don't tend to use them. But if your language ingrains that in you from the start, then you simply have that orientation to the world. Well, is it just pragmatic? No, it's not. If you're working in relative compass directions, the world is always oriented to you. That's why we can say your left or my left, right? But in Thayor, you are always relative to the world. Now that is going to have pragmatic implications, but that is a profound philosophical difference, right? That wherever I turn, the world reorients itself towards me, or wherever I am relative to what the world is. Now that is accorded to us by our language, which we are not born with. If you take a cat from France to Sydney, the Parisian cat does not go le meow, and the Australian cats go, why is this cat talking French cat, Human beings, on the other hand, have to learn languages. That they are part of a human memory, human inheritance, and what happens as a result of that are whole modes of thought about the world. They are extensions of mind. Language is perhaps the first and most profound form of extended mind.